Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made headlines in the last 7 days. I am Esther Mokwariola. Yobe, Borno, Enugu, Anambra, Benue, Kaduna, Adamawa, and a growing list of states across Nigeria that depicts an alarming rate of insecurity painted in the colors of sorrow, tears, and blood. But it's the latest attack in Imo State at a country home of the Governor Hope Uzodinma that has shown the far-reaching extent enemies of the state can go to wreak havoc, commit crime, and instill fear. And these are not the interesting times for Nigeria's Minister of Communications, who has had to deploy every communication tool in the bag to defend, explain, and convince Nigerians after extreme Islamist views he held in the past recently came to light. Well, later on the program, we will look at the recent controversy surrounding the embattled minister, Issa Pentami, amidst calls for his resignation. Unknown gunmen have allegedly attacked the country home of the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, at Omuma in Oru East local government area. The gunmen, who invaded the governor's village house in Omuma in the early hours of Saturday, burned some cars but unable to set any building ablaze before they were repelled by the security.
Barely 24 hours after Governor Hope Uzodinma accused politicians of sponsoring banditry to destabilize the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, his country home at Omuma came under heavy attack by unknown gunmen. In the attack, 3 security personnel were killed, cars also razed, but none of the buildings were affected. This road leads to the house of Governor Hope Uzodinma that was attacked early hours of today by unknown gunmen. Although effort to have access to the place was proved abortive by security agents on duty. Although residents here are calling on government to step up security to forestall future eventuality.
They drove in hopes and they used those tipper to hit the gates and to come in there. We are not safe anymore here. They burned down all the vehicles.
This morning we are in the alert because many people pass, criminals pass and went there and shoot one policeman, enter Hope's house. But they go enter there, burn all the whole cars where they there.
I am appealing to the federal government to put more tightened security to make sure that all these hoodlums are tracked down. We are living in fears.
What happened was that...
For Commissioner for Information's view, support the governor's earlier thought on the possible involvement of politicians in worsening the insecurity in the country.
Preliminary investigations point to the fact that the thing was politically sponsored. So, but no conclusions yet. His Excellency has already directed that investigation on the matter should be expeditiously handled, and that both sponsors were applicable and the agents should be quickly apprehended and brought to justice.
This latest attack on the residence of the governor is coming 19 days after the prison gates were thrown open, freeing inmates, and the headquarters of the State Police Command was destroyed by unknown gunmen. The situation in Imo State may not be wide apart from other states in the southeast part of the country, where security of lives and property is under increasing threat. Prince Oba, TVC News, Omuma.
Well, joining me for more analysis in the studio, I have Uzonna Onoye, Executive Editor, TVC News, and on Skype, I'll be joined by Kimbodi Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa. Good to have you both on the program this evening. So let's begin with you, Kimbodi. How worrying now is this devastating trend, coming from the fact that this happened in the country home of the Imo State governor? What do you make of this?
For months now, if not for years, we have been shouting about the degenerating state of security across Nigeria, and that, all people elected in public office, be it at the state or at the federal level, should, begin to take concrete action to bring the security situation to, under control. However, Nigerians have been called names. We have been told that even if we shout ourselves hoarse, or we kick like like a horse, that we have someone who always keeps his eyes on the ball. Now, the problem is, which ball exactly are we talking about? The bulk of security issues in this country stops at the desk of Mr. President. He owes us a responsibility to bring the situation under control. Wherever you turn in this country, there is crisis. Now is the home of a sitting governor. I wonder where this government will begin to take this issue seriously. Maybe when a governor is killed or a parliamentarian is killed. We've seen bandits now killing the president in Africa. But I bet Nigerians are getting worried. Nigerians are tired. A few weeks ago, about 68 CSOs, national CSOs in this country, issued a statement asking that the president needs to act. That's where we are today. Every day, it's been tales and tales of deaths. And the reaction we've been getting from federal government is to shift blame, name names, interestingly, even telling journalists to stop reporting because there have always been deaths and there will be deaths forever in Nigeria. It's a very shocking, distressing moment that we are in this country. And I just hope that this government will begin to do the needful and stop the blame game and rise up to the occasion. The president swore to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution states clearly that the responsibility of the state is to protect lives and property. I think the president is failing in this regard.
So, but Uzona, as according to the Commissioner for Information in Imo State, he said rather this would have a political undertone. Do you agree with that suggestion?
I have no information to support or disagree with him on the political undertone that may play out in that incident and other incidents, but a few questions may be necessary to ask. If it is politically sponsored, by who? Because it's not enough to just use political sponsorship or undertone to give an excuse and allow things go on and things continue the way they are going. If there are politicians suspected to be behind these offenses, why have they not been brought to book? For how long are we going to be telling tales and going round in circles without really addressing the issue? The issue right here now is that lives are no longer safe in many parts of Nigeria. It used to be in one corner of the country. Now it is widespread. A few days ago, some students were, reported killed. 3 of the students from the institution in Kaduna that were kidnapped some weeks ago were reported killed, and life had continued. Some students were kidnapped a few days ago again, and life has continued. You see, it's really, really, really worrisome. And sometime ago, when the president, changed the service chiefs, many of us celebrated it, with high expectation that it's now time for these issues to be addressed, head on. And then more recently, the Inspector General of Police was changed, suggesting that it appears something is likely going to be happening. Unfortunately for all of us, nothing has changed. Instead, things are getting worse. Governor Wike of Rivers State is asking that those people that killed security men, in his area should be brought to justice. For how long are we going to be getting this condemnation here and there? We are going to take drastic actions and promises that are never fulfilled. What every Nigerian wants is that life should be safe in the country.
And with the request for life to be safe in the country, which isn't too much to ask, Akimbode, how do you see this affecting Imo State security architecture? Do you think perhaps there should be another strategy to be adopted in all states, particularly in Imo State where this has happened? What do you propose could be the best solution to this problem?
What will likely happen is that you have the fire brigade approach. They would send some soldiers to protect the house, and maybe the governor, they'll beef up the security around the governor, but that's not the solution. Don't forget that this is not the first time that bandits are getting closer to a governor's residence. In Ekiti State, a few weeks ago, there were some bandits that went to Ishon, the hometown of the sitting governor, and they shot for a few minutes and kidnapped somebody just few houses from the governor's residence. The problem is that the entire security architecture of this country seems to have broken down. The problem is this nation is at war, but the president refused to admit that we are at war and act accordingly. Everybody knows that the entire security personnel across the country are stretched, be it the military, the soldiers, everybody, because there is mandatory, violence activities going on in practically every state of this country. And you get to that point, you now need a national strategy. I mean, for instance, Imo State doesn't recruit the police. So much has been said about state police. So much has been said about community policing. Even if you ask Imo State to start recruiting today, that will not solve the problem at hand. It is the time, I believe, that the president should admit that he needs help, seek help, recruit into all the strata of the forces and rejig them. In fact, you're talking about the IG. I read a report that even the town of the ID has been taken over by bandits, for instance. And you see that even for the few, let's say, policemen that are still left protecting us, particularly now in the eastern part of this country, they are being attacked. Have we forgotten that they also are Nigerians, they are our brothers and they are sisters too? And that it will get to the point that they themselves will have to run for their lives. And this is the point we are in this country, that all the governors and the president needs to sit down and forget about PR, name calling, and the kind of grammar that they can write and articles that they can write, and let us face this as a nation, that we are at war not only with Boko Haram, we are at war with bandits, and bandits should be treated as bandits. If you have a defense minister that is saying that he doesn't believe in killing bandits that are killing his own soldiers, then there's a problem. So we think that it should be a national strategy, and the time to start now, the time to start is actually now.
So, Uzonna, final thoughts on this issue. What's the way forward?
Yeah, my final thought is that as much as we blame government and we expect government to do everything that should be done, the citizens also have a huge responsibility. These people that carry out this act are amongst us. We know them. We have an idea, we know where they are. If they are operating from a forest, there are farms around the forest that people go to and they notice strange movements. If they are operating from an uncompleted building, those buildings belong to people and people know where they are. Until we decide as a people, as a nation, not just government, to keep ourselves safe, we will remain safe. If not, what we are going through now, we're going to live with it for a long time.
Well, let's quickly go on a short break. We will come back and we'll have more discussions on Newsweek. Stay with us. You're still on to Newsweek. Well, the dust is yet to settle over the calls for the resignation of the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami. But this time, a coalition of civil society for good governance believes the social media campaign against Dr. Issa Pantami is a well-funded program by some influential Nigerians aimed at heightening insecurity in the country.
Nigeria's Minister of Communication and Digital Economy has been in the eye of the storm for weeks after reports filtered that he was on the U.S. watch terror list. Dr. Pantami was accused of supporting extremist groups years ago, but in a statement he says those sermons were delivered decades ago and he has since renounced these teachings, blaming immaturity. At a daily Ramadan lecture in Abuja, he said his position on jihad has changed, but there have been calls for his resignation, especially from the opposition party and his city governor. At this forum, the coalition of civil society said some persons have continued to profit from this campaign of calumny, which they say is heightening the security situation in Nigeria. Addressing a press conference in Lagos, the coordinator of the coalition said it is alarmed by the sustained campaign against the minister, whom he described as principled and innovative.
We are forced as civil society members to publicly condemn the ongoing well-coordinated campaign of calumny against Dr. Patami by those whom we have discovered are opposed not only to the digital revolution of our economy, but also the efforts of the ministry under his leadership, particularly the compulsory national identification number, NIM.
They also want President Buhari to ignore these distractions as they have to tarnish the image of the minister who came to limelight over the issue of NIN SIM registrations.
We should tell President Muhammadu Buhari to disregard the campaign against Patami and not allow the government to be misled by those selfish characters who want Mr. President to unwittingly fall into the trap of some individuals who are the sympathizers of terrorist groups in the country.
Things are coming from no other persons or group than the enemies of this country. And one thing we as a group, a member of this country, Nigeria society, believes is that Nigeria is the only country of us we have. We are not going anywhere. We believe that this is our Jerusalem. We believe that this is our own US. And one day Nigeria is going to be great.
Though the US or the DSS are yet to issue any statement over the matter, Nigerians remain divided. The minister has insisted that no amount of intimidation will stop him from implementing policies of President Muhammadu Buhari. Ademola Lawrence, TVC News, Lagos.
Well, I still have in the studio with me Uzona Onoye, TVC News Executive Editor, and still via Skype, I still have Akimbode Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa. So let's begin with you now, Akimbode. You know, with all that has happened this few weeks now, there have been varied reactions following his extreme Islamist views. You know, but while the presidency says it stands by the minister because he has done enough in terms of he has done enough to change the illegal data deductions and pricing, and has revolutionized the government's virtual public engagements to respond to COVID-19 and save taxpayers money. What's your take on this whole issue?
Esther, I don't believe all those blackadash. The truth of the matter is which ICT revolution is going on in Nigeria today. Besides that is the fact that the allegations against Sheikh Ali Issa Patami is extremely weighty. We started by discussing the issue of security in this country. Our biggest problem today is security. And you then have somebody whom Nigerians are beginning to lose confidence in his integrity to be in charge of our data assets. I don't think this is something that the government should just wish away just like that. It's not about getting people to, speak at press statements. The fact is that this matter is not going to go away. Whoever is advising the president seems to be doing that wrongly. The whole world is watching us. There are very, very incriminating evidences about the statements that Patami had made in the past, and this borders on supporting terrorism. We do have a law, the Terrorism Prevention Act, that is very clear about what terrorism is. Either you support or you promote in any guise or in any form. There's a section of that also under the EFCC Act. Now, the point is this: when you commit a crime and then you come out and just say, I'm sorry, there is no recompense. And more so, as I said earlier, these are issues that are extremely weighty. I think that this government needs to sit back and look at the public trust that they are playing with as regards the issue of Patami and do the needful.
Indeed, public trust. But Uzonna, you know, the question of morality in test, what should be the right thing to do on the part of the government and on the part of the minister? What do you think should be done at this point?
I'm not an advocate of bullying a public official out of office. We have seen it happen in Nigeria. Unfortunately, not too long ago, the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, was humiliated and forced to leave office. We all sat back and watched it play out. Yes, but in this instance, we should recognize that public officers resigning is alien here. It doesn't happen. But there's a huge responsibility in the hands of the federal government. It's not enough to, issue press statements and declare support for the minister. It should go beyond that. Were there cases of utterances that are unfriendly and uncivil coming from the minister about 2 decades ago? These statements, were they proven? Fine. If they are proven, is there any time limit between, for people to account for what they did or for what they said? If there's no time limit, has there been enough evidence to show that the minister had had a change of orientation between when he said what he said and now? If there is no, or there are no evidence of his change of orientation apart from mild debate between the minister and the late leader of Boko Haram, where they didn't disagree on the fundamental issue. They only disagreed on methodology of carrying out their actions. So if that is just what it is, the government may have to come out clean, look at the issues more objectively, instead of trying to hoodwink everyone to accept the view of government that the man is innocent. I'm not saying that there may not be some, filthy hands behind the scene manipulating and operating these things. Yes, we have seen it happen before. It has always happened. So he said, and government said also, that the people that are against the National Identification Project are the people behind this. In the first instance, what was the National Identification Project doing that will make people against it? That it is trying to track down the use of phone numbers and all of that for criminality. Is that enough to target the minister? Is it possible that some people have sat on one corner and noticed that the National Identification Project may have been compromised to allow non-Nigerians come into the country, possess, get the national identity number and begin to operate within the country legally? Because once they are registered as Nigerians, they have legal power to be here and operate. And there are many questions that need to be answered, instead of just throwing all the allegation away and saying that we stand with the minister. As you're standing with the minister, look at the issues dispassionately and objectively and find a lasting solution. Just like my colleague said, it may not be going away too soon.
And Kimbode, final thoughts on this matter. What do you think the government should do at this time?
I think the government should be honest with the Nigerian people, and the government should be courageous to admit that proper checks were not done regarding this particular minister, and if possible, send emissary to him to save us this national embarrassment before people begin to laugh at us we claim we are fighting terrorism, and we cannot even conduct objective investigation. For a case of our official that is being alleged to have links to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. I think this government should save us this embarrassment.
And at that place, we will have to leave it for now. Thank you very much. Akimbodi Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, and as well, TVC News Executive Editor, Uzana Onoye. I would like to thank you as well for your contribution on the program as usual. And that's about it on today's edition of Newsweek. Thank you very much for watching. You can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. Until the next one, I am Esther Amopariola. Bye for now.